In this video, we'll be looking at a 1/18 scale 3D printable, playable pool table. Hey everybody, it's Adrian from Zenza's Toys, back with another 1/18 scale 3D printable toy. So this time around, it's a pool table. And what's cool about it is that it actually kind of works, and that you can, if you use ball bearings or BBs or something like that, something small and round, you can actually kind of play pool with this, and that balls will fall down the holes and they'll come out right here. So let's talk about how I made it. So as always, I started with some good reference images. I went to dimensions.com, which I've used many times in the past. It's a great resource. And I got some images of pool table dimensions. And once I had those, I brought them into my own tool that I've made that lets me get dimensions from an image. So the way it works is you establish one length as your reference. You say what that dimension is in real-world units, and then you pick a scale and draw additional lines. And each line you draw gets converted to what that would actually be in millimeters in that scale. So I can just draw lines. I get dimensions for the 1/18 scale version of whatever it is that I'm making. And what's cool about that is I can go from as few as a single image. Did that, I got a bunch of dimensions, and then I went into FreeCAD, my tool of choice. So I started with the body of the table, and then I made a flat top and a lip that would go around and kind of be the bumpers. And then I got to printing. Okay, so this was my first prototype, and I printed it out mainly just to make sure that the size was right and it was going to look good with figures. And it turned out that my measurements worked out pretty well. So I was really happy with how this looked alongside a figure. There's a couple things that aren't quite done with this yet. So first off, the legs are on just with super glue, which, I just kind of like glued them on. There's nothing to align them. More on that in a minute. And if we look inside here, we'll see that the interior is totally flat. So again, this was just, I wanted to go ahead and get this printing because this was going to take quite a few hours and see how the fit was before, while I continued to work on the interior. And I had actually been thinking about making a pool table for a while, but I was getting kind of hung up on some sort of like complex internal arrangement, and then I realized that it doesn't have to be that hard. So what I ended up with was just adding some ramps. So here's what it looked like at the end. And what I've got here is one slope that is high on this side and goes down, and then another slope that's high on the edge and goes down to the center. So the upshot of all that is if I take some BBs and drop them in, you'll see that they all, more or less, make their way down. I also added a lip to catch them here. I also wanted to make it a little easier to assemble, so you can't see it here, but you will in a second when I walk through the assembly, is the legs look the same, but there's a little slot, well, two slots in the bottom of the table body that makes it easier to align the legs. So we'll see that in just a second when we assemble the real version. But yeah, so I kept the same tabletop. It just drops on, and then the same lip, which both of those parts, the first version was great, and you snap it on and you got a pool table. So with that, I was ready to actually print in real colors. So here's the final version in black for the body and the two sets of legs. A nice deep green for the table surface. And silver for the lip. So now that's all printed, let's actually put it together. So this goes together really easily. I'm going to try to show you, it's a little hard to see because it's black, but you'll see that there's two slots on the bottom, and I added a little bit of a ridge here to the legs. So this isn't a snap fit. It's not enough to keep it in all by itself, but what it does do is it makes it really easy to align these two parts together when gluing. So what I'm going to do is just put a little super glue on, and we'll get this set up. And that's pretty much all there is to it. So let's get a little super glue in here. Just a little in the slot, and a little in this slot. And I'm also going to put a little bit on the leg and a little bit on these legs too. So there's a nice big surface area for the glue to meet the body here, which will give us a nice, good solid joint. So again, that little bit of a tab it's not quite a snap fit, but it's really just there to align. So I'll hold that on for a minute or so, and I'll get this one on, and just hold them firm for a little bit. Okay, so now I'm just going to take the table, and if you print this, make sure to note you'll probably get a slightly nicer finish on one side than the other. This had a little bit of, the edges here aren't so great, so I'll use this side. So yeah, you just take the top and just drop it in, and there's a few pegs here that will hold it in place, so it just rests on that, and then this just snaps on. I could glue this, but you don't have to. This actually is a snap fit, and there we are. We're done. Of course, for this to be a full pull table, there's a few additional things we'll need. So let's talk accessories. Okay, so first up, we need some balls. So I got this set of plastic beads on Amazon. And what's nice is they're actually beads with no holes, so they're perfect little spheres. I thought these were going to be great and really just like perfect, but the problem is they're really, really light, and they kind of behave oddly they accumulate static electricity and kind of stick to each other and repel each other and don't really roll down as well as I had hoped. So they ended up not being quite as good as I had hoped they would be. But luckily, I still have a bunch of BBs. So I got these for the pinball machine that I made a few months ago, and I'll have a link to the video if you want to go check that out. And they work great. So being a little more solid and a little heavier makes them roll a little more nicely. So they interact with each other a little bit better. They roll a little bit better. They more reliably fall down to the exit. And I think they just work out a lot better. So that's what I ended up using. Of course, if you're going to set up a pull table, you need a triangle. So made one of those, and we'll just see how that looks with. So the only downside of the BBs is that obviously they're all silver. Well, I am a little disappointed in that. For me, better playability always wins. So I feel like these make for a better play experience. If they end up jumping off the table and running away somewhere, you can just take a magnet and pick them all up, which is really nice too. So I can get them out of there, and now I've got all my billiard balls ready to reset the table. And there we go. So now we've got a table and balls, but no cues. So making the cue was pretty easy. It's a ever so slightly tapered cylinder with a little bit of a concession to the abilities of a 3D printer. So they're a little bit thicker than they would be if they were truly 2-scale, but there's two good reasons for that. One, it makes them more possible to print, and it also means that it's easier for action figures to actually hold them. If you've ever played pool and needed to get to a tricky shot though, you know that sometimes a cue stick alone isn't enough, and you need a bridge. So what I've got here is a version of the cue stick with a bridge on the end. So now you can get trickier edge of the table shots, like so. And then of course, in order to really round things out, you need some way to store your cues. So I made a cue rack, and I made this in two forms. So either one will work, but this one looks a little bit better, I think. If your main concern is for just static dioramas, this is a little bit closer to what you might see in the real world. But this is really hard to get cue sticks into without it falling over. Whereas this one is ever so slightly different. It's still easy to get the cue sticks in and out, but it's a little more stable. for actual play use. So I prefer this one a little bit, but in the released files, I'll offer both of these. So you can take your pick if you end up printing this for yourself. Okay, so at this point I was really happy with the pool table itself, but I was thinking about what else to add to it. And I ended up making some bar stools. And this was really easy and went together really fast, and it ended up being a really quick print. But I'm just really, really happy with these things. They just, I don't know why, but for whatever reason, these bar stools just bring me great joy. It definitely helps that I happen to have some really nice light brown that was just perfect for the legs, and this kind of reddish, almost slightly translucent brown that really works well as kind of like leather. So putting those two together really works great for something that reads as a bar stool. Okay, so let's look at how the bar stool goes together. It prints in 4 parts, 2 legs, 1 leg support, and a seat. It's a pretty quick print. The whole thing prints in about 20 minutes. I printed 8. I wanted it in 2 colors, so I printed 8 of these at a little over an hour and 8 of these at like an hour. And it goes together really easily. So I'm going to get some super glue and let's put it together. So having assembled a few of these at this point, I find the easiest way to do it is I'm going to take some super glue and put it in one of these slots, just one. So put a little dab there and a little dab there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this leg piece, the one with the slot facing down. And that's important because what I'm going to do now is stick this into the slot, like so. And then I'm going to apply some super glue here and add the other set of legs. So I'll just put a little super glue there and get a little bit in the center slot and a little bit there. And then take the other leg piece and just put it right in. So at this point it probably looks pretty wobbly. So if these seem misaligned, that's actually okay. We're going to fix it real quick with the next bit. So I'll get it a little bit straightened, but that's good for now. Now what I'm going to do is grab the leg support, and I find that if I just put this on my pinky, it makes it really easy. So I'm going to put a little bit of super glue in each of these 4 slots. So just a tiny bit. Try not to glue your fingers. Just a little dab there, and there, and there, and there. Okay, now that we've done that, I'm going to take our support and just get all the legs into the slots and work it up about that far or so. And as you push it all together, it'll kind of self-correct a little bit. And if it looks slightly other than level, it just kind of adds to the dive bar charm, I think. Okay, and there we go. 1 bar stool. Yeah, so that's about it for this video. I hope you enjoyed watching. If you want the files for either the pool table or the bar stool, I'll have links to those below. I hope you enjoyed watching as much as I enjoyed making these. Both of these went together really easily and quickly, and I couldn't be happier with the result. I really love how both of these came out, especially the bar stool for some reason. I don't know why I love this so much, but I do. But yeah, if you enjoyed this and you want to see more 1/18 scale 3D printed toys and other stuff, please do like, comment, share, subscribe, all that great stuff. It really helps a lot. It's much appreciated. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.